Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to call the July 21st, 2020 special school board meeting to order. The first item is to accept the agenda. Madam Superintendent, are there any revisions to the agenda as printed?
There are no revisions for the agenda today.
Okay. The chair will entertain a motion to accept the agenda for July 21, 2020 as printed. Do I have a motion? Raise your hand. Billy?
Move approval.
As a motion?
Yes.
Okay.
Move approval of the agenda.
And Ms. Reynolds, is that a second? Okay, I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I'd like to call for a vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand so I can see you in the monitor. Okay, all those opposed, like sign. The motion carries unanimously. But it would be a 6-1 vote because I believe Ms. Miller is out of town today and not with us at the meeting. Next, I would like to ask Board Member Lynn Wilson if you would be so kind and give us the invocation today.
Yes, I will be happy to do that. Thank you, Madam Chair. Let's bow please for prayer. God in heaven, again, we come to you with thankfulness in our hearts for the many blessings you have bestowed upon us. We are grateful for the opportunity to meet here this morning. We pray that you will guide these decisions and these discussions in making the best choices for our school district. We pray that you will help us to meet the many needs and balance the needs of our many constituents. We ask your blessings on Superintendent Byrd. You know her heart, you know her needs. We pray that you will meet those needs as she continues to lead us and lead our school district. I pray for all of our school board members. I pray that you will grant each of us the strength, the courage, the wisdom, and humility to continue to lead our school district. We offer this prayer on behalf of our school district, and I offer this prayer in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Now, at this time, I would like to ask everyone to please stand and ask Ms. Susan Warbington to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Warbington, and everyone may please be seated. The next item is public comments on agenda items. Before we begin, I would like to respectfully request that each person who speaks via email comments be considerate and courteous as you address our board in your comments. Mrs. Warbington, is there anyone that has submitted comments via email regarding an item on our agenda today?
No, ma'am, not today.
Okay, thank you. Seeing none, we shall proceed. The next item we come to is our regular agenda. Under Business Services General Items, we have item number 3, permission to advertise the superintendent's 2020-2021 tentative budget. So I would like to entertain a motion to advertise the budget. And once we have a motion and a second, I'd like to ask Mr. Perrone if he would speak about the budget and maybe give us a brief outline. Do I have a motion? Mr. Wilson, motion, and Ms. Fields, second. Okay, Mr. Perrone, would you be so kind and walk us through the tentative budget?
Yes, good morning. So part of the trim, this is the first part of your trim, which is the truth and millage. You need to approve the ads that we will run in Saturday's paper. So you have the attachment now on the agenda, and we can go through those. Every year we have to meet the certain criteria. So you have the tentative budget all funds. And I'll talk a little bit about the budget, but we're going to go over that in much more detail next Tuesday. But you have all the ads, summary of the funds and how they work. And then we have a capital outlay ad that we have to run. We have to run the proposed tax increase because we are receiving more revenue, even though the tax went down. So that's always a kind of frustration that the tax levy or the millage goes down, but because the tax base goes up, we receive more money, and they call that a tax increase. So we're running that as per statute. Later this week, hopefully today, we will get you the tentative budget document. The reason we don't have that and usually don't get it to you until the weekend before is that on Friday night, this past Friday night at 5 or 6 o'clock, we got the final numbers from the state, which is normal. And so staff has been putting that together. And so we'll have a full tentative budget for you. And then we will review that in the workshop on the 28th, and then you'll vote that at public hearing. I did want to mention that one change in the ads, and I thank Mr. Bridges for getting us the information, but since we will be doing this virtually, we had to change the ad to let the public know how to make comments on that, and we had to add how to get to the meeting. We are proposing right now that we will end this fiscal year with a 4.34% fund balance. Again, that is tentative. We are still making entries as we speak. And so, as a matter of fact, even at the tentative budget, from the tentative to the final in September, there may be some changes. They won't be drastic. But we're going to go through that. We'll also show in the tentative, because we are using or proposing, the superintendent and I are proposing to use the CARES money in such a way that it will build our fund balance, that we will reflect a fund balance at the end of next year at 6.9, almost 7%, which is excellent. However, we keep telling the board that we feel that either somewhere in the middle of the year we will have some cut, or we'll feel some pain, major pain going into next year's budget. So while that's all good, I do want to call that to your attention. You will see that in the documents that we send. But today's meeting usually is the most brief meeting that we have all year, and the one I look forward to. It's just to approve the ads. I'll take any questions if you have any.
Thank you, Mr. Perone. Are there any questions, board members? You can raise your hand, or Ms. Fortney?
Good morning, everyone. Mr. Perone, I know you're under extreme stress and in emergency mode, as most of us are. I'm just curious where we're at with the new teacher categorical that was written, obviously, to punish our veteran teachers. How are we approaching that in the budget? I did tried to kind of follow along with your updates, which I appreciate.
So the 18 million, which after we are you talking about the negotiations with that and how we're going to spread that out?
I guess I'm just curious because I get numerous questions from our veteran educators, and of course, let's include our support staff. I heard that the state is going to require a $15 an hour threshold, even with our support staff.
I have not heard that one.
Okay,
I don't know how we would afford that, but again, if it's a mandate, I have not heard that. I'm on every Wednesday. And part of the
I believe it's
finance-
an amendment that might be coming up, or I don't know. I'm just kind of throwing it out there to find out what our plan is, especially for the categorical money.
Mhm.
Because of, I'm all for saving for a rainy day, but I'm afraid the state, what they'll do is they'll see we have a ton of money and they'll go ahead and cut us, because I don't trust them. That's really my point, and I'll let you answer.
Yeah, we are expecting something in probably November, December. We're saying it's going to be after the election, obviously. We're speculating, but it is all across the state. Everybody's saying the same thing. So, and if we don't, then we're going to feel it when they build next year's budget. So it's going to come at some time. So we are really strongly recommending that, we use that CARES money the way we have it budgeted, and you'll see that when you get it. As far as the salaries, there's the 18 million. We have to take the money out for charter, and when we do that, and then the taxes, payroll taxes, things that we take out, we are working with the union on how that's going to look. We're a bit of a difference of opinion on how that money is to be used to get to the 47.5, but we're working with them, and talked to Mr. Bridges yesterday. We're going to call for executive session maybe if we have time on the 28th to kind of go over that, because statute is quite prescriptive. But we want to get with you on that. But we are talking with the union. We've had 2 meetings regarding that. So that is ongoing. I hope that answered your question.
Well, yes, and maybe. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Fortney. Mr. Wilson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I think that Ms. Fortney's question is quite valid. But I think also our fund balance relative to other districts is sufficiently low that I don't think it's going to get anyone's attention. And I remember, and Ms. Cunningham and Ms. Fields will remember this better than I, we ran into some difficulties in 2008, and I'm sure that was an exceptionally painful process in figuring out how to cut the budget, when the state cut us back. So I would urge that we err on the side of caution also.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Mr. Townsend?
Just want to clarify for the benefit of the public. We're not even approving the tentative budget today. We're just advertising.
That's
right?
correct.
Correct. Secondly, I think this illustrates the difference in how school boards operate and how city commissions and county commissions operate. I mean, our budget was essentially determined Friday night by the revenue that came in. We're not in the position of debating our own revenue. We're just in the position of discussing how to divide what's available to us. I can kind of go either way on the fund balance. I'm more concerned on what we actually do, and when and if that political cut comes after the election. I'll deal with that at that time. I think in some ways the fund balance is going to be irrelevant because of the size of the cuts that are probably coming if we don't get big federal government support. So, I think in the short term, it's fine to have some rainy day stuff if it doesn't force us to cut stuff. So I'm okay moving ahead on that concept, but we'll talk about that more on Monday. So anyway, I just wanted to kind of clarify that.
Thank you, Mr. Townsend. Ms. Fortney?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not advocating either way. I just wanted to bring it out into the light because those are the majority of questions I get. Our support staff worried about paying their bills, our veteran teachers feeling as if they've been punished yet again by people that have never been in a classroom.
Thank you, Ms. Fortney. Ms. Fields?
Thank you, Ms. Cunningham. I would have to agree with Mr. Wilson's comment. And what I'm hearing from many of the employees that I'm speaking with is that they're just wanting to make sure that they have a job and that they have income coming in. And so as we look at where we're going to be headed over the next few months, it's going to be critical that we are as financially sound as we can be under the situation that we have before us. And one of the things that I'm sure that Mr. Perrone and Ms. Bird will provide is the CARE Act funds. How will we utilize some of those funds outside of the fund balance as it relates to sanitation of the schools and the added expenses that we're going to incur, which I'm sure would be pretty large as we get ready to have discussion on the budget. I would definitely hope that that's something that we will be having discussion on as well.
We will. I will update you on some of the, we've already incurred a number of expenses since March, and we continue to spend. And we have sent those expenses over to the county, and we're working with them, and they are going to reimburse us for some of that, and we'll continue. Hopefully that will continue. So that helped out a huge amount, and Polk is only one of the, on my calls, Polk and a couple other districts where the county is helping, and so some of my colleagues are quite jealous about that help that we're getting, but we truly appreciate it.
Thank you, Ms. Fields. And of course, thank you, Mr. Perrone. I appreciate it. Are there any other questions for Mr. Perrone before I call for a vote? Okay, and I too want to say how much I appreciate the diligent work this Ms. Bird and Mr. Perrone and all of our staff have done in preparing the tentative budget. And once again, to reiterate, we are simply voting today to approve the advertisement of the budget. We will have a formal public hearing next Tuesday on July the 28th. We'll have discussion and work session, certainly, and then we'll be voting on it. We'll have a public hearing, and then we'll actually vote on the final budget in September. I believe the date is September the 8th is our
That's
next
correct.
regular board meeting. Is that correct, Mr. Perrone?
Yes.
Just to give everybody the timeline. So board members, you'll have an opportunity to review this, and then we'll have a public hearing next Tuesday, the 28th. And then you'll have more than a month to September the 8th before we actually vote to ask questions and finalize any of the information that you want better explained during the time. And yeah, this is kind of how the budget works every year. There's not a whole lot of time, but we make the best of it. So I would urge board members during this time, if you do have questions, feel free to reach out to Mrs. Bird or Mr. Perrone to get those questions answered. Okay, so we do have a motion and we have a second. So I would like to call for a vote. All those in favor of giving permission to advertise the superintendent's 2020-2021 tentative budget, please indicate by saying aye and a show of hands if you would, so I can see you on the screen.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Aye, everyone. Okay. All those opposed, say nay. Okay. The motion carries 6-0.
Zero.
Okay. All right. Next, we come to our superintendent's report. Mrs. Bird, do you have an update for us today?
No, I do not have an update today. Thank you.
Okay. Did you want to announce the next board meeting for us, please?
Our next board meeting will be held on Tuesday, July 28th, 1915 South 4 Avenue, and it will be done virtually via Zoom for our board members. Again, please follow our website if you are looking to have any comments added to the agenda. We have those directions on our website. After the work session, we will have our board meeting, which will follow at 5 p.m. again at 1915 South Florida Avenue, which will be held via Zoom. Again, please, if you would like to post any comments, send those in to our address that's on our website. Thank you. That concludes the announcements for today.
Thank you, Madam Superintendent. I appreciate that. Next, we would have our attorney's report. And Mr. Bridges, do you have a report for us today?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Next, we come to our auditor's report. And Ms. Matthews, do you have a report for us today?
No report today. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. And now we have our board member reports, and we'll start with Mr. Townsend.
Hi, thanks. I just I don't really have a report. I wanted to ask Superintendent maybe a couple of things about the reopening status. You know, I know there was a big lawsuit filed yesterday by FEA, and you know the virus does not appear to be. I mean, in Polk County, particularly, it doesn't appear to be going in the right direction. I'm curious if you can update us on your interactions with Dr. Jackson at all, and kind of what your thinking is right now. And I spoke with a data scientist last night who has kids in our system, and she made a good point, I thought, about having a dashboard or some sort of benchmarks against which we're evaluating how to open. Can you kind of talk about that at all? And then secondly, I appreciate you responding to me by email about this, but I think it'd be good to get it on the record for folks too, that when our parents are making a choice, if they change their mind, they're able to file the form again, and it's just filed by time, so it's the most recent one they've done. Is that the same with our teaching staff as well? Is that if they change their mind? So can you just kind of give a quick little update based on what I just asked there, if you can make sense of that?
I will. Thank you. Again, on the phone with Dr. Jackson this morning, we are looking at our numbers. We're actually going to join our efforts together and work more closely together this week as we come up. We're watching the numbers, and we're going to be probably talking again later in the week as far as how we strategize. I do want to make sure all the board members know that in the event that I would need to call a special meeting based on what we're seeing as we're moving into the upcoming weeks, and I know we don't have some meetings, Madam Chair, I will be making sure I contact you if we have to call an emergency meeting as we're watching those numbers. That was one of the conversations she and I did come up with. Can we have those meetings at any point to make sure we update the board on what's our next steps? Looking at it now, if you're asking me, I mean, are we ready to say we're going to change the date for the 24th? As of today, we're still monitoring what we're seeing today, and we're monitoring it very closely now. So we'll keep you abreast of that. If we need to change as quickly as we come up with that, we are. She and I, like I said, we'll be talking again, not today, but we'll be talking again this week and doing some joint efforts. As far as the dashboard, there's a dashboard that Dr. Jackson has out. I don't know if the board has seen that, but what I would do is get that and send it to you. I know she shared it with other entities where it does measure up everything in Polk County to the others. I'll make sure I get that dashboard out to you because it is very accurate. I believe it's using real-time data. I'll double check to make sure is what she's doing with that. So I'll be sending that out to the board. As far as the parents and the staff, when you do the intent, if you happen to change your mind, make sure, just, like some of us, we get, keyboard happy. We hit one thing, we think about it, 2 or 3 hours later, we change. We're looking at date stamps in your footprint at that time. So if you update it, we'll look at the next time. We're going to pull the most recent time as that is your decision. So if you do one today and you change tomorrow, we're going to look at your footprint from tomorrow and the date on that. We're going to take the most current. So that was one of the things I wanted to. The other thing, and thank you for bringing that up, we need everyone to please fill that form out. We have not gotten a lot of traction. If a parent does not select, it's going to revert those parents to option 1, which is going to be face-to-face. So we need everyone, we can't stress, please make sure that you fill out the form and give us the feedback. That way it better helps us. How do we staff buildings? How do we build our virtual school and Polk virtual? So please make sure you complete that form. Thank you.
Thank you. That's very, very helpful. Thank you. I'm done.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Townsend, and thank you, Ms. Byrd, for that wonderful update. And board members, Ms. Byrd and I are in constant contact, so you know. We had that discussion actually this weekend regarding the need possibly to call special meetings depending on what the health condition in Polk County looks like. So we are communicating very closely and almost on a daily basis. And at a moment's notice, if we need to call a special board meeting, we will be prepared. We are prepared to do so. So stay tuned, keep watching, and thank you so much for your comments, Mr. Townsend. Next, we have Ms. Fortney.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Those were some of my concerns as well. I was wondering if Superintendent Byrd could give us some numbers, actual hard numbers, the number of parents that have responded, the percentage that would prefer face-to-face versus e-learning or virtual, and some of the numbers that our staff also have responded to. And then as a follow-up, a lot of staff has not filled it out because they're not quite sure what would happen if they go face to face and they contract the virus and their days out, how that is going to be handled, either workman's comp, etc. So many questions, and I don't expect answers to everything, but maybe just an update on the numbers and the progress on that would be great for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Great questions. I can tell you just yesterday when we looked at the numbers of the staff, and again, this is early on, but we need to get more of them in because we haven't had a big response. But in what we had 41% of the parents saying of the numbers that we had on. I believe it was right around 7,000. I'm not sure, but 41% of that saying face-to-face, 30-something% saying it can go either way, virtual or face-to-face. So you're already running right around 72% looking at either face-to-face or Polk virtual. When it comes to staff, I believe we had a little bit over 3,000 staff members that had responded to the to our intent at that time. And their numbers were, many of them, if I can't give you the exact one, I will send it to the board, was looking more face-to-face. They were looking at going more face-to-face, which is the campus learning. So it's leaning towards the campus learning, which is the brick and mortar. I will send that update. I think I remember saying to the board, I was going to give it to Wednesday to try to send you all an update where we were by Wednesday, that'll give us a good look at it. So look for that to come from me tomorrow so you can have a brief update where the breakdown is and how it is. And then we'll make sure we continue to update you again another 3 to 4 days after that, and then after it closes.
And the follow-up, Superintendent Byrd, about yes, ma'am. All right, thank you.
Thank you for reminding me. If staff have questions, because we do need to hear what staff intents are. If they have questions regarding medical and leave, please reach out to Linda King and Risk Management, or either in our Human Resources Division. We're actually looking at having a person help out with those questions and coming in to kind of put a liaison there, because I know Human Resources is already getting bombarded with a lot of calls, and so if our Risk Management. But that is going to be the first line, because again, if there's a medical condition, we have to follow the process of the ADA. So please make sure you reach out to those two divisions to answer any questions regarding leave and any of the medical conditions.
Thank you. I was just trying to get rid of all the rumors, because the rumor mill is poison, really, as far as people making a decision. And some folks have reached out. I know, I'm not quite sure they're good with the answers, but they have reached out.
Right. Thank you. I agree. There's a lot of rumors out there, and all I do is ask people, if you want to get the most accurate and the correct answer, please contact the staff that is handling that.
Ms. Fortney, is that the end of your report?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was reading an email. Yes. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Ms. Reynolds?
No report today.
Okay. Ms. Fields?
I just had one question for the superintendent. Miss Jackie, did we ever do the frequently asked questions that we said we were going to place on our website and Facebook page referencing reopening of schools? There was a lot of questions that were posed at our last meeting. A lot of them related to staff and health issues, and if a child or a staff person gets the virus, how's that going to impact the classrooms? I don't know if that's been addressed yet, or if you guys are working on that.
Yes, we do have that, and we're updating it daily as we get questions. So if any staff has a question, send it to us, and we're updating and placing it there. Because if someone asks a question, it could be something others are thinking as well.
Thank you. That's all I have, Ms. Cunningham.
Thank you, Ms. Fields. Mr. Wilson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to make sure I understood correctly the conversation about teachers making a choice. If they don't send the form in, then it will be assumed that they're going to be teaching face-to-face. Did I hear that correctly, Madam Superintendent?
Yes, if we don't hear from teachers, it's just like we're doing the students. In order to have, a decision about workforce, that's what we're looking at. That means that they're going to come back to the face-to-face, just like with students.
Okay, thank you. I think it's important that we make that clear. I'm sure you are already doing that. Thank you. I received a lot of comments about my new haircut, so I want to address that. When I was younger, I thought it was cool to have long hair. Now that I'm older, I think it's cool to have short hair, and there is a double entendre intended there. I do have some comments, and before I start, let me be clear that these comments are not intended or focused towards anyone. I hope I can make that abundantly clear. My intent is not to focus these comments towards anyone in particular. I absolutely unequivocally appreciate and value the right to free speech. I think it's one of the most redeeming characteristics of our society. It's important for folks to share their concerns and their grievances and their perspectives. But in reality, words have consequences. And I fear that some of the comments made at our last school board meeting have substantially damaged our school district in the short run. And I'm not interested in revisiting that. I'm not interested in having a debate about that. I'm not interested in indicting anyone or pointing a finger at anyone. What I'd like to do is talk about how we move forward. And I have some thoughts about what we should do and what we can do to move forward in a productive way. It's interesting to me that when I take a position on any particular matter, especially the more divisive issues, that there are folks who agree with me who will use comments like informed and courageous. And I appreciate that, but the next time around, if there's a matter in which we disagree, those same folks will use other terms which are not nearly as complimentary. And I've heard the word coward at times. I'd like to share my process of how I come to the conclusions and make the decisions that I make. For me, it's a lot like peeling back the layers of an onion. It's time consuming, it's unpleasant, and at times there are tears. But I do that. I think there's some folks who don't take the time to do that. They form their conclusions. I don't know, perhaps by listening to others, I'm not sure. And there are some folks, I think, who have foregone conclusions, and they simply peel back the onion to try to find the layers that support their conclusions. But in any case, that's okay. It's okay I think for our constituents, and certainly from my perspective, to share those thoughts. I think it's much more difficult when there are personal attacks. If I'm open to anyone having a debate, I want to hear from folks. I need to hear from folks because it keeps me informed. It helps me understand the other perspective. And I need that. I need that input to help make decisions. So I generally and sincerely value the debate and the input. I think where it goes astray is when it becomes a personal attack, because there's nowhere to go from there. There's no way to move things forward positively. And I know I've shared those concerns in the past as well. You know, when things devolve into personal attacks, it creates a caustic environment, which makes it virtually impossible for any superintendent to be successful. And that means that we can't be successful as a board. It means we can't be successful as a community. It means we're not going to be able to create success and value for our students. And it doesn't end here. It's self-perpetuating. When we go down that road, you know, and I'm not going to talk about the superintendent here for a moment. I use an example of a business and a president in a business. You know, there are some folks who like a particular president, the other folks who engage in personal attacks. You get a new president, you get a fresh start. And the folks that like the original president now are engaging in personal attacks against the new president. So it's a self-perpetuating problem, and it doesn't move things forward. So I'm going to say again, and I offer these thoughts to everyone, my colleagues on the board, to our district, to our community. We can have the difficult debates. We should have them. It's important to talk about the things that we need to talk about. It's important to keep each other informed. But I would suggest that we cannot be successful when we engage in personal attacks. And I think it was Dr. Alexander who spoke to us last week. Was that his name? I believe it was. He said something I thought was very profound. He said, the plural of anecdote is not data. I thought that was a very insightful comment. Well, I would add that the plural of personal attacks, the plural of ad hominem attacks is not success. And I hope that we can move forward in a positive way and learn to have those discussions without attacking each other personally. And with that, Madam Chair, I yield the floor to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. I appreciate your words of encouragement this morning. And yes, I totally agree. I think we live, unfortunately, in a society that condones that type of behavior, which you have just expressed. And I think as we move forward, you know, everyone has a right to free speech, and they have a right to come before us and speak what is on their mind and what is on their heart. And so as we move forward, as I've asked in the beginning of our last meeting, as well as this one, I'm asking our public to continue to provide feedback and comments to us. But I ask that you do it in a constructive and respectful way as you address our board each time you come before us, because it's so important to keep that level of respect and civility in order for us, as Mr. Wilson has said, to have success. And that's the point. We're not here for each one of us and our egos. We are here in order to do what's right for students. So as we move forward, I would like to continue to encourage everybody to do unto others as you would want done to you. And that includes our public as well as our board members as we address the public as well, and our staff. Additionally, I would like to say thank you once again to the number of people that continue to email me. Some are directed at me, some are directed at all the board. With the numbers that are coming in, at least into my emails, it's virtually impossible for me in this day and age to be able to respond to everyone. But I have read them, I am looking at them, I am sharing them with others because it is important to do so, so that our staff knows some of the great information that we are receiving. So I'd like to ask you to continue to do that. We've gotten some great feedback. I even had a student email me, I think it was yesterday or last night, regarding his thoughts about the reopening of school and some data that he put together. I was so very impressed. So continue with the emails, because that is a pulse of how our community is feeling as we move forward. I do want to reiterate once again that Superintendent Byrd and I are in constant communication as we continue to monitor the pandemic with our local health officials. I share the same concerns as each of you regarding health and safety of our students, our staff, our parents, and ultimately our Polk County community. So we just have to stay vigilant and be very flexible. with us as we make the best decisions that we can based on day-to-day information. And as we've said earlier, if we feel the need, Superintendent and I will be calling a special meeting if we need to adjust the start of schools based on any further information from our health community. Okay. Is there any further comments by the board? Mr. Townsend?
Yeah, just a question that someone texted me, I think is a good one. What, if any, role do we have in approving the reopening plan for charter schools? Is that going to come before us for a vote? How does that work?
I can answer that, Madam Chair. The state board has directed those charter schools come before superintendents for approval, and then we send them to the state board for their approval. So they don't come before the board. We just have to approve to make sure that they are pretty much in line with some of the guidance that the state board is looking for, and then we send them off to them for their final approval.
So, and I don't mean to put this like this way, but if there are parents who have concerns or want their voices heard, they kind of need to go through the superintendent and their own boards, I guess. Is that
they need, right, through their own boards, not through me. I've been getting some of the charter school parents have been emailing me, and the way they reopen, we're making sure that they're within the guidelines that we're required to follow, and then we're sending it. But if the parents of a charter school has a concern, they need to contact that board for the charter and that superintendent for that charter school.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Bridges, would you like to weigh in, please?
Superintendent.
Sometimes they turn it on and off, sometimes they don't. The superintendent got it right. The statute says that for the charter school, their governing board will perform the same role. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Okay. Their governing board will perform the same role for them that the school board does for the district, but that the school board is the reporting agency. The charter schools board has to approve it. Then it comes to us and for the board, for the district through the superintendent to report to DOE. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bridges. Ms. Fortney?
That conversation sparked a thought. Two. One, Seminole County, and Superintendent Byrd probably knows this, and that's why I'm asking her directly. They had some sort of hybrid plan approved by the DOE. Is that true or false, number one? And number two, wouldn't that set us up as a district to go e-learning and then have our spaces, community-based instruction for our special population and neediest kids, that we could actually deliver those services if we did start on time with e-learning? That was a mouthful, I know.
Yeah, I'm not sure, Ms. Fortney, which hybrid. Some districts prior to the commissioner coming out had already had plans approved and had to go back and readdress those plans based on the conditions that were given to us. So I'm not sure if you're talking about his adjustment one. I would need to look at what he's doing. I know some of the ones where they weren't on site the 5 days, they had to go back and readjust those plans. Many counties, if you look at the options that we have, many counties have lined up in the same way. So I'll go, if you want to send me an email, if it's something different, but mostly all the surrounding counties, we're all having the same 3 options as the type. So I'm not clear on which hybrid you're talking about, because they may have had to go back and readjust it.
Okay, that was kind of what I was asking, because I had just seen that Seminole had a hybrid okayed, and it seemed to involve like right here in Bartow, using the Civic Center, using Carver Rec to spread our kids out so we could socially distance and attend to the needs of some of our special ed kids that must have services, etc. Does that make sense?
I understand what you're saying. So that's more of a use of facilities is what they're doing.
Yes.
And I would need to see because all plans now are due July 31st. So there could be an adjustment there. And it could be because they have some of their sites which are smaller than others. They may be get into like an interlocal agreement with some of their cities, their city for facility use agreement. I'm not aware of that from Seminole.
Okay.
That's what they're doing.
Right. And all I know is what I hear, and we know we can believe about. Yeah. Okay. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fortney. Any other comments, questions? Board members? Okay, at this point, we come to the part where we have public comments addressing items that are not on the agenda. Mrs. Worthington, have we received any comments today from the public? No. Okay, we shall proceed. Then, board members, there being no further business, this board meeting of July 21st, 2020 is now adjourned.